The creator of Resident Evil has responded to the news of his former studio closing. Hey, it's Game Rant, and Tango Gameworks founder Shinji Mikami has reacted to the studio's closure. Taking to Twitter, the acclaimed game director gave a simple three-word statement. Quote, "Tango closed. Sad." End quote. Mr. Mikami does post online in English, usually in brief, small messages, but even in that context, this is a shorter, more subdued comment. Tango Gameworks is only one of 3 studios being closed by Microsoft, and a 4th developer, Roundhouse Studios, has been folded into other Microsoft companies. No number was given to the expected layoffs, but with AlphaDog and Arcane Austin being closed, over 200 employees will be affected. Microsoft stated this was a strategic choice to consolidate resources. This is mere months after Microsoft laid off 1,900 Xbox and Activision Blizzard employees, which itself was briefly after Microsoft purchased Activision Blizzard for $69.7 billion. So who exactly was Tango Gameworks? Well, for many years, it was synonymous with the creator of Resident Evil, Dino Crisis, and God Hand, Shinji Mikami, who left Capcom to work with Platinum Games on the fast-paced shooter Vanquish. In 2010, Mikami founded Tango Gameworks, reuniting several of his previous team members and receiving much-needed funding when it was acquired by ZeniMax. And on the surface, it would appear to be a creator-driven company. However, several years later, after he had left Tango, Mikami said that he was a producer by title and hardly held any sort of authority, and that Tango was a department within the company that was ZeniMax. His decision to leave, he stated, was largely due to his desire to work with younger creators and to distance himself away from horror games. In fact, when Tango was founded, the first game that was envisioned was a science fiction title influenced by Dune, but after the acquisition by ZeniMax, a new horror title was eventually greenlit and Mikami's original game was cancelled. In 2014, Tango finally launched The Evil Within. Marketed as a spiritual successor to Mikami's own Resident Evil 4, the resulting quality was, at best, inconsistent. However, it certainly has its fans, and sold well enough to have a sequel greenlit. But Mikami had other ideas, and has since stated he originally intended to depart Tango Gameworks around this time, but expressing a sense of responsibility, he stayed on, ultimately passing the directing role to John Johannes, a young developer who had aggressively sought out a job with Tango Gameworks. Mikami has reflected on their first interaction, saying he saw the passion in his eyes, giving Johannes his endorsement. The result was The Evil Within 2, a 2017 game which, despite a sizable marketing campaign, failed to reach the same sales figures of its predecessors at launch. The game has earned a reputation amongst the few who have played it as one of the most unusual, high-concept, and emotional horror games of the previous generation, escalating the action and stealth mechanics while committing to a more surreal, dreamlike world. But despite the critics evangelizing this sequel, it's clear there was never really a chance for The Evil Within 3. 5 years later, in 2022, came Ghostwire Tokyo. The most divisive game of Tango's catalog, this one failed to garner much steam due to its slow and simple gameplay. Though some critics were complimentary of the game's structure, and after several patches and revisions, the recent user reviews are very positive according to Steam. Kenji Kimura took the lead as director, a first in his long career, dating all the way back to the Nintendo 64 with those classic WCW and WWF Pro Wrestling games. Kimura's most recent work can be seen as the online lobby art director on Tekken 8. Tango also briefly entered the mobile space with their Dice Hero game on Android. This was sunset only 5 months later. And then came Tango's biggest surprise, both in content and in release, a Day 1 Game Pass stealth launch. Directed by John Johannes, Hi-Fi Rush quickly garnered attention when it released in January of 2023. A merger between mascot platformer, beat-em-up, and music rhythm game, this fresh concept did well with players and critics, though what exactly those numbers were, we don't know. At the time, reports made it appear the studio's new owner through acquisition, Microsoft, was pleased with the results and would further invest in Tango's future projects. It even became among the first games to be ported by Microsoft to the PlayStation 5, and a major shakeup to the Xbox brand. It appeared to be the first big breakthrough Tango had been waiting for, but a month later, Tango would be in the news for a very different reason, as Shinji Mikami announced his plan to depart the studio nearly 8 years after he originally intended, and 1 month later, it was revealed he had once again started his own development studio, Temu Inc. Originally seen as the end of the era, now only 15 months later, his former development studio, Tango Gameworks, no longer exists. But the games do, and if any of these have struck a chord with you, they've never been more available. The whole catalog is available on PC, PlayStation 5, and Xbox Series X, well, except for Hero Dice. Anyway, that's gonna do it for us here at Game Rant, but keep clicking around here. We have even more features on the works of Shinji Mikami and Tango Gameworks. So, we'll see you there.